At the December 8th Lansing City Council meetings, the public speaks to the council about the importance of finding a good place that works for everyone for a proposed temporary housing community. Council debates the fairness of rolling back red tag fees on houses actively being renovated. Old Town businesses have mixed feelings about expanding the tax boundary for the shopping district, and local and out-of-state redevelopers ask for tax breaks. Welcome to What Lansing Council, a podcast transforming Monday night's Lansing City Council meetings into an enthralling recap. I am your host, Jill Dombrowski. Today, my very special guest is Mia Murphy. Mia works as the Chief Policy Officer at the nonprofit Michigan Association of State Universities. She also serves on the board of the Salus Center, an organization that serves the inclusive 2S LGBTQIA+ community in the greater Lansing area. She earned her PhD in higher adult and lifelong education from Michigan State University. She loves board games and time travel adventure novels. Welcome, Mia.
Hi there, Jill. That sure is a lot of alphabet soup and academic ease in there, but nice to be here.
Yeah, and your credentials matter, so thanks for doing all that you're doing.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to be able to do it. It doesn't really help when you're in like year 5 of a doctorate while you're working full time for the state universities, and you're like, why the heck did I do this again? Why am I writing a dissertation? But it's still a privilege to be able to do it. So I try to keep that in mind. So just glad to be here.
All right. Awesome. And tell us a little bit about what is Lansing to you in 1 to 3 words.
Mm-hmm. So there's obviously a bunch of them. I would be remiss if I didn't, steal from Lansing Facts and Super Secret Cult Band and go with Rusty and or Concrete. And so I think on the areas where there are some real detractions, it's that Rust Belt nature. It's empty. There's a lot of emptiness in Lansing. On the plus side, the community here is unmatched. There's affordability for many, and it is also queer as hell, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yes, love it. And tell us some more things that you love about Lansing.
At no point did I plan on ending up being in Lansing for, at this point, the majority of my life, right? So I'm originally from northern Michigan. I moved down here in 2002 to become an undergraduate at Michigan State. What Lansing has really been, as I've gotten to know it, as I've been here since really 2002, except for like 1 year when I was down in Chicago, there is just it takes a little bit of work to find some things, but there is something here for many, many people. Being able to find community, find friends, having that ability to just like get into some really weird stuff. You mentioned Krampus it was like 2 nights ago, like the random festivals featuring everyone's favorite Dutch horror character / holiday figure. I mean, that is very Lansing. The stuff that's really was kind of very informal, the East Side, Stoop Fest. And actually I saw on last night's council agenda, there was, I think, something about making Stoop Fest a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. So that very sense of DIY, that sense of, why not? Let's try it kind of a thing. That's very prevalent here. Mm-hmm. I've got a lot of friends who moved to large cities. They want to move to large cities, and they might be renting forever. And renting is still, affordability is still an issue here in Lansing for a lot of folks, and we certainly have unhoused folks. Mm-hmm. But for many, it is a chance to actually build wealth and actually create some stability. And that's been what is, I think, really interesting for me is that I get to help run a nonprofit advocacy board as an executive, and just run around doing my things in the Capitol, and then I drive 4 minutes and I'm home and I'm done and in my PJs for the night.
And you're not sitting in traffic for 2 hours or whatever, getting out to the burbs.
I'm still angry at every single red light that inconveniences me, but it's a grand total of 4 minutes. So some perspective is useful.
Yes. And what are some things you'd like to see change in Lansing?
I think I mentioned the emptiness earlier. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's a lot of vacancies. It's vacant storefronts, vacant homes, vacant blocks, and vacant brownfields. Mm-hmm. I think what this administration has focused on, what Mayor Shore's been focusing on for a lot of his time, has been a lot of that kind of somewhat top-down economic development, and I think that generally works at the local level here in Lansing. I don't know if that works necessarily at the state level for some of the economic development opportunities, but like seeing the new housing come in, the new housing projects, getting a density of housing to me in downtown Lansing is going to be absolutely vital, and just we can try to like jumpstart one or two one-off shops or boutiques here or there, but without an actual customer base, nothing's going to take. And so I've been really excited about seeing the new housing come in, seeing some of the economic growth in Lansing. And yeah, I know this is all a bunch of neoliberalism, right? But at the same time, like I downtown Lansing, we all know, is like, it will sell you a sandwich from 11:30 to 3 o'clock.
Right.
I've been working downtown here since 2008 when I started in the state budget office.
Okay.
And in that time, the majority of what downtown has just been a dwindling number of sandwich places. Pour one out for downtown subs and sandwiches and New York burrito. I still miss those guys.
Oh, yeah.
But we went to a show at Grail Hall on Saturday. We got some random free tickets from somebody I know. We weren't planning on doing it at all. And being able to go to a show and just pop in a major like touring UK band. It was like Auto Heart.
Oh, wow.
It was a really, really good show. They are, and it was batting kind of above what you would expect from a small kind of venue like Lansing in terms of population. So that's been really exciting. What I would change though is, or rather recognize, is that we are really hampered by our geography. And how do we manage our geography? We are essentially quadrisected as a city by 127, the river, and 496.
Yeah.
What I really want is a city that actually has a lot more multimodal transit, but with cycling and pedestrians in mind. And that's, I think, something that was a bit disappointing in the Michigan Avenue reconstruction. But I think looking at what happened with all the construction in the last year, things get closed for part of sewer separation or the reconstruction on the on-ramps. You close down one or two of those crossings, everything else becomes a choke point. And it actually is there was one or two accidents one day, and there was actually no way across town. Yeah. And that is pretty severe. And that's just in a car. So I think a lot of what I would like to do is, of course, as we're seeing growth with things like Grail Hall, the Ovation, I'm really excited for. I want to not have to drive an hour and a half one way to a show, right? It's that, and also trying to work with our geography, create more crossings or create better corridors for cyclists to actually get around this town so it's not quite so car dependent.
Yeah. Mobility is certainly a important topic for everybody. We got to get around, and if you want people to go to these new businesses, they got to be able to get there, for sure. Thanks for that. Let's get into the meetings.
All right.
So we've got a lot of what you mentioned is coming up here today. Let's start with the Committee of the Whole, or COW, as President Cost was calling it this time. Our council members are Ryan Cost, the president of the 1st Ward, Jeremy Garza of the 2nd Ward, Adam Hussein of the 3rd Ward, Brian T. Jackson of the 4th Ward. Our at-large members are Jeffrey Brown, Tamara Carter, vice president, Trini Pelivanoglu, and Peter Spatafor. Also in the audience for this meeting was council member-elect Dianara Navarez Martinez, who will represent the 2nd Ward next year, and many of the council members came down to say hello to her. Also at the meetings are Greg Venker, the city attorney, Sherry Boak, the recording secretary, and Mark Lawrence on the mayor's behalf, his chief of staff. So this first meeting was a bit of a nothing burger. There was only one public comment by myself about public commenting. So I've been going to the meetings for a year now, and something that kind of bothers me is the public comment at the regular meeting is at the very end of the meeting. And it kind of sends the message that, like, that's kind of an afterthought, like we're just doing it because we have to, not because it's something we really care about or, like, prize. So I'm like, hey, maybe you should move that to the front. So I said that, and then...
Well, I'm on the Library of Michigan Board of Trustees, and we have our public comment at the end as well.
Okay.
I don't think we've ever had public comment in the year and a half or so that I've been on the board. It's just not a big thing. I do know, since I represent the 15 public universities, the governing boards of the universities can certainly get overwhelmed sometimes with public comment. And then I think there has to be some approach to managing, the length and accessibility of the meetings. If the meeting is unexpectedly going 5 hours, 6 hours, that's not accessible to the rest of the public as well, who are actually trying to be there for the whole meeting. And so I get the challenge there, but I do think that it's about trying to figure out how many folks can we get in the room and trying to understand and better plan as you're sitting there at the start of the meeting. All right, how much time do we have left? How much time can we actually give to all the public so that we can actually have their input?
Yeah, I think that if more people are coming, there's so many ways to get in touch these days. You can email, you can call, you can go to office hours, that sort of thing. And I feel like when there's so many people coming to the meeting, it's like we've tried these other ways and we haven't gotten anywhere. So this is kind of a last resort to show up and say our piece. So I think it may be a little bit of a signal to council, like, hey, maybe if you're communicating with people other ways, like, you're not going to get that deluge, but I don't know. You never know.
Maybe folks just really want to start weighing in on Library of Michigan Board of Trustees meetings.
Yes. They should mention that those meetings are also available to comment at. I'll send them your way.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So there was a closed session at the meeting of the whole, and this was to discuss ongoing litigations the city is involved with, of which there are 23. 5 where the city is suing people and businesses, and 18 where the people and organizations are litigating against the city. So we didn't get to hear what was going on there. Then the regular meeting began, and I'm going to give the public comments first here because that's what I think should be happening. And at the regular meetings, there are actually 2 places where people can give comments. There's during the meeting to talk about agenda items, and then there's at the end to talk about kind of whatever you want, city related. So this is the city general comments. 6 people there were specifically talking about a project spearheaded by the HRCS department, the Human Relations and Community Services. Then the HRCS is calling it the Nova Housing Initiative, but I think most people are referring to it as the Mod Pod community. And these are the modular pod homes that Lansing purchased at a discount from the city of Kalamazoo. Kalamazoo was trying to do something like this, but they couldn't decide on a location, and so they were selling them. Lansing bought them at a discount, and now we're trying to decide on a location. Have you heard much about what's going on with this?
A little bit. I think my awareness of it is that the city is trying to figure out where to actually have these small housing units for the unhoused community. And to me, it sounds like it's been mostly a determination of which park to put them in.
Yes. So the stage that we're at now, my understanding, is that the HRCS department has released a list of their top 5 locations. And the number 1 is Stabenow Park. And then number 2 is the old Shabazz School. And then there are 3 more parks. And so, yeah. That's what's going on. People are saying, hey, this is happening too quickly. There needs to be more direct community involvement in the decision making. And somebody else says there's a lot of restrictions that you've already decided on for the Mod Pod community. Stop trying to keep people out. And I challenge all of you council members to sit outside your doors for 20 minutes. I don't want anyone to have to live outdoors in these conditions, except maybe you, Mr. Mayor. And then the next person says, I don't want to see the Mod Pods going in any Lansing park. They're untidy, and I want the city to renovate a building and allow these people to live inside. Let's get them out of the cold weather. Another person says, just because I've been homeless doesn't mean I'm a loser. I think the Mod Pods are a good idea. Let's find a spot that works. And the real heroes are the organizations that are providing support to the unhoused right now, those being Punks with Lunch, The Rent is Too Damn High, the Advent House, and Cristo Rey Church. One commenter has his has a kid with him, and the kid comes up for the comment, and it's kind of like an awkward times when the kid runs up into the space between where the council members are sitting and where the audience is. There's this little gate, and the kid runs through it and starts grabbing a microphone that's there for special presentations.
I mean, I love a good gate.
Yeah. kid gate. Yeah. and the caregiver like grabs the kid and brings them out, and Councilmember Costa is like, we trade kids for puppies, so doing a little crowd work there. Then somebody else says, look, we're in a financial crisis. People are scared. There's a lot of uncertainty. And they're recommending to put a moratorium on evicting people who are doing vehicle and trailer camping. So people living in their cars in like parking lots and stuff. Like, let's do some harm reduction and not try to kick those people out of living in their cars. One last comment on this says, we're in a housing crisis. Our unhoused neighbors need support, and substance abuse is a health condition, not criminal behavior. In the Mod Pod's thing, they're trying to say, like, no drug use is allowed in this community that we're building. This person says it would be great if we would provide resources without any restrictions. And also, as an aside, this person says the catastops need to be more accessible. A week after it has snowed, the buses are dropping passengers off into snowbanks.
I mean, yeah, I'm able-bodied, and even I, like, if we park our car, like, my wife and I just can't get out of the passenger side, and that's just, like, with a car, let alone if you're mobility challenged, if you're using assistance or anything like that. The Mod Pods thing seems almost like we're missing the forest for the trees to me in some ways, in that this whole discussion has become, well, where do we stick everybody? Is kind of the underlying tone, it sounds like to me. And I think my first preference or my first thought is essentially, this is Lansing. I just talked about vacancy and emptiness for like 5 minutes at the start of this podcast. I would love to see much more public housing that is just directly operated by the city and or the county without this housing of last resort vibe of it. The real challenge, though, is I think looking at the reason that a lot of folks became unhoused in the first place, and that is yes, mental illness is part of it, and mental health that's untreated, but also unsupportive family members. We know that a lot of folks who are unhoused were essentially kicked out of their families because they're queer. And there are actually no shelters in the city that will accept folks on the basis of gender identity. And so one of the things that the Salus Center is doing is partnering with A Place for Us. And A Place for Us is working towards creating Lansing's first actually inclusive shelter for unhoused folks. And so they're in the kind of early stages of fundraising, but I really urge folks to check out A Place for Us. And I know that they are partnering with Punks for Lunch and some of the other organizations on this, but there is that real question about, where are we going to actually, like, if folks are actually being invited to come inside for the night, well, are they being invited to come inside for the night, or are you asking a woman to go get stuck with the men? Are you asking them to be preached at, something that basically dehumanizes their values? And that's not to take away from the good work that the current shelters have done, but they're just not an option for everybody, and that is by their own, missions. Yeah.
Well, I'm very excited to hear about this Place for Us. And is this run by some people who have done a similar model in other places, and then they're helping out here, or is this just truly a grassroots?
It's very much grassroots. And so there's been a lot of local organizing from folks on the ground. And so they're a affiliate kind of partner of the Salus Center. So they kind of do their own thing, but they have been engaging in the space for, I think, at least about a year and a half, 2 years now, because this is just such a recognized problem. And there are not just beds for folks in this in the community. And so that is something that it's going to be certainly a long-term kind of solution. But in the meantime, what can we do for finding individual beds, individual apartments for families? Yeah. So rather than just kind of the institutionalized model, like, how can we connect folks with the one-off apartment here or there, or the one-off house here or there, so we can actually get folks into, dignified housing? Yeah. Being more creative in the way that we're looking into helping people, I think, would be amazing, and not really something that was discussed at this meeting.
Another person there was up to give a comment, and this person had her elderly relative with them and talked about how this relative had a fire on her property in the building, and the building department has been a nightmare to work with, renovating, like cleaning up after this fire. She's being charged numerous fees without any explanation. She'll call the department, and they'll say, and a city staff has told her to Google it, instead of explaining kind of what's going on with the code and what's going on with her particular project. So this person was saying that my elderly relative is being taken advantage of. There needs to be more senior services and help for people going through these like projects with the building department. One commenter was there about the proposed data center. So this data center, they're trying to build between Cedar and Larch, just north of Kalamazoo. And this commenter said, the Ingham County Board of Commissioners made a resolution urging City Council to create a regulatory framework for all data centers in the city. We need to have a moratorium on data centers until you do something like this. It needs to include what the rules are related to the proximity to other housing, noise levels, water use, pollution, types of clients that are using the data center, and the data use cases. Is it for AI? Is it for who knows what? And there needs to be a community benefits agreement between the data center and the city.
I mean, this data center thing popped up out of nowhere, and obviously it's a major. It's quite clear that I think Governor Whitmer and her administration are very keen on this. I think I generally tend to be a pretty much a YIMBY. Like, I want more development, I want more accessibility, I want more of everything in my city. And obviously there's always going to be trade-offs with things. That said, is there even any upside to a data center in downtown Lansing? Mm-hmm. It's not going to create jobs. It's going to be a one-off construction boom for a few months, but then these things are essentially, locked doors, not staffed. And so, but and even then, is it doing anything that we actually want? And I don't think that there's actually that much of a use case for anything that it's doing. Mm-hmm. And so, my bar is very low for what I'm happy to see on a brownfield redevelopment. Mm-hmm. Maybe not something that's just like an ominous pyramid of data crunching.
Yeah. So I think what the data center folks would argue is this particular one is being done in a quote sustainable way, where the heat from the servers is going to be captured and fed into an existing hot water steam line that the BWL runs throughout the downtown. So that was kind of their real rationale for why they're putting it at so close to the urban core, I guess.
I mean, I'm interested.
Yeah.
Like I said, I generally the bar is very low. I'm really interested in pretty much most things, but also, is it going to be just
is that enough?
Crunching out AI slop? Right. I mean, yeah.
For me, also, it's if we're going to be using the AI, we're using this. People are using it. I'm okay with a little bit of repercussions of that use. I just feel like we're so separated from our actions, seeing what goes into, every single decision that we make. Where is all this material coming from the clothes that we buy, the phones and the computers that we use, and, when we throw them away, what's going to happen? I just feel like we're so separated from the cradle-to-grave kind of idea of the life cycle of things.
I actually like that point a lot, and it's obviously this is an urban center. This is about density, and people downtown are using AI. Mm-hmm. People in all the offices are generally using it for whatever they want, and so, here's the trade-off. Drive by the obelisk of joy that you want every so often on your way into town. And also, the flip side of that is, not everything has to be out in a green field way out of town. I like that idea. Let Okemos have a little bit of joy. Let Williamson have a little bit of joy.
Right. So getting back into the regular meeting, Councilmember Hussein talks about his upcoming community contact meetings and some weekend events. President Cost thanks folks for coming to the data center meeting that he hosted on Saturday. And the mayor also talks about all the great events over the weekend, including the Krampusnacht. And he says, happy 25th birthday to Ryan Cost. And Ryan says, the flattery will get you everywhere. because I think he is a bit older than 25.
Doesn't look a day over it.
That's right. You're looking great, Ryan. Good job. One board appointment happens for Selena Mate to an at-large member of the Historic District Commission. Then there are 2 developer presentations. One is for a, quote, local emerging developer, a normal person working hard to build something positive and reinvest in the community. This person currently owns a tattoo shop and is seeking to get the Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act tax break to renovate a building on Washington Ave just north of the downtown Strange Matters Bangos building. And a second person is there talking about their development, and they are a big out-of-state developer, in their words, from Chicago and LA. They're looking to get a payment in lieu of taxes or pilot program for renovating the Pinebrook Manor apartments on South Waverly. So this group, the pilot group out of Chicago, says they're working to rehab affordable housing all over the country, and the project won't pencil without this tax break. Most of the funding will be federal. That's $13 million. And this presenter has got a poster board on an easel and keeps popping out of their seat to refer to it. And I can just imagine that everybody trying to watch this presentation on the live feed was like, what is going on?
You would think that in all of my career working with the public universities and on behalf of them, the most engaging legislative testimony that I've ever seen from all the presidents when they do their annual testimony was President Emeritus Dave Eisler from Ferris State, who would come in every spring with easels, 2 easels, and he'd have his data on there to talk about the impact on state appropriations for Ferris State, but also on the tuition incentive program. And he'd just bounce between the 2 easels, kind of like a very active squirrel. And then he'd follow it up by bringing in a student who was helped by the tuition incentive program.
Oh, wow.
And this is the state's program for some of its lowest income Medicaid eligible students. And then he'd let the students speak for themselves. But that easel sometimes, that giving that kind of kinetic motion would actually keep the subcommittee members, maybe a little bit more awake, as opposed to staring at their phones, which legislators would never do. But
nor would council members.
I'm just saying that motion helps.
Okay, interesting. Well, good. Maybe they knew about that and they were utilizing that strategy effectively because they were jumping up and down quite a bit. Let's see. So it's been 17 years. So a little bit of timing here. It's been 17 years since this property was rehabilitated, and it's going to be a tenant-in-place rehab. So no one is going to be kicked out of their house where they're currently living to do these changes, and they're saying that the rent is not going to increase. And they're asking for a 30-year tax break on this. Councilmember Jackson is doing the math. He's like, wait a minute. If this property needs to be rehabbed every 20 to 15 years and you're asking for a 32-year tax break, that doesn't really make sense to me. That seems too long to be asking. And the person's like, yeah, well, sorry, that's how it's going.
So I never stay in hotels in Lansing. Obviously, I live here and have for a couple decades now. And so people would ask me, where should they stay? And so the stories we heard from the old Radisson downtown, when it had the exclusivity agreement on tax breaks for, I think that was also a 25 to 30-year break.
Yeah.
I'm told that it was, shall we say, dated at the best. And that's just, you wind up creating, if you lock these things in place long enough, you don't have that financial incentive to go back and make the intermediate incentive so much if you can just kind of ride it out.
Right. Yeah. So that's a real concern. So I'm glad that Councilmember Jackson was asking about that. Peli Vonoglu says, in your literature here, you talk about helping people move towards home ownership. Could you talk a little bit more about that? The developer says, yes, we're going to work with local banks and churches to do a financial literacy program for tenants, get everybody a bank account and teach them how to use it. Councilmember Jackson says, what if President Trump gets his way and there are major cuts to the Section 8 program? And this person says, well, we think that the federal House and Senate are in support of this. They don't want those cuts. There's going to be a huge increase in homelessness if there is. And we have a contract with the federal government, and we think that that contract will be honored.
We'll see.
We'll see. President Koss says, have either of you, because there's two folks there presenting, have either of you even been to Lansing before? And one of the guys is like, oh, well, I went to U of M and my brother lives in Langsburg. So, yes.
If you say it fast enough with an outside accent, like Lansburg, it's almost like Lansing.
Yes. Yeah.
Lansburg.
Close enough. I don't know if I've ever been to Langsburg.
I've driven through. It's really pretty in the fall.
Okay.
A lot of trees.
Great. Love trees. The other person says, we'll be contracting with local folks to manage the project. And I've been here a few times talking with the mayor. You can have my cell number, the same cell number I've had since I was 12. And Councilmember Jackson is like, why did you have a cell phone when you were 12? So that got some laughs. There are two public comments on these projects. One says, I hope to God you say no to this pilot project. Most of you will be dead in 32 years. And these are extractionists coming to our state to take our money. Andy and the council, you are too nice. We can't survive 4 more years of you. You're thinking with your hearts and not your heads. We need more economic development and jobs. Apartments are not going to be moving our city forward.
Okay. I'm just doing the math on the council members' ages on 30 years, and I think that's being maybe a little bit pessimistic.
Yeah.
Maybe this person has plans. I don't know.
And maybe they're all older than they appear. It's hard to know.
Maybe it's a threat.
Maybe. God. The data centers will be coming for you. Another person says, we can't be giving tax breaks to every single developer. We are allowing wealthy people to continue to profit. The Oprah person seems nice, but the pilot folks, this is unreasonable. Instead, we should be spending city money to renovate and improve urban corridors. This will induce development naturally. It is a long-term solution that will be better for the city. Great.
I mean, I'm open to that, and I do think that you do have to do some jump starting here. Like this is a Rust Belt city. We've obviously lived through decades of just like stagnation. And so I'm not opposed to it in concept, but a 30-year PILT is just really? Really? Like you look at some of the things that the Michigan Economic Development Corporation has done, some of those terms, like if you want to subsidize things, we can have that conversation. But 30 years? That's quite the opening bid there, friends.
It's a long time. Yeah. Next, there is a public hearing on expanding the principal shopping district in Old Town. And we have speakers from the Old Town Commercial Association, business owners, and the Michigan Community Capital nonprofit. And they're saying, look, we have worked together to create huge value add in Old Town, like the Krampus, and that drew in 10,000 people to our area. We have reduced vacancy in the Old Town area from 90% to 5%. And this was hard work. This was done through work and resources, but it pays off. So we're in support of extending this business shopping district. And a few other business owners speak up, and they are not in favor, and those include the Gillespie Group representative. And they're saying, look, we just found out about this. We need more details on exactly where the money will be going towards. There's a huge disconnect in some of the area that's being considered that's to the east of Cedar and Larch. Like, Cedar and Larch are really a divider for Old Town. Like, we're not seeing that same sort of development in our areas. So let's put a pause on this.
I mean, I lived in Old Town for 10 years and had a really great landlord. And Cedar and Larch are a bit of a dividing line, but also the Temple Club's been renovated. There's a gym over there. There's medical supplies there. There's the office centers. Zuby's has been going strong for a decade now. Absolute Gallery moved over there. You've got Maria's. I mean, it's not as cute as the side west of Cedar and Larch, because the side west of Cedar and Larch got the IKEA grant all those years ago to do facade improvements. Yeah, the side to the east is a little bit more, shall we say, Rio Town, but also Rio Town's where I think there's more action anyway these days, more energy. But So how does the principal shopping district work? Is it a tax capture scheme?
Yes, I think if
I love taxes. Let's go for it.
Well, I'm not a super 100% on top of what this actually means, but my understanding is they basically draw a line and they're like, if you're within this boundary, then you have to pay, I think it's just like a base property tax increase that goes into a specific pool that is used to improve all the areas that's within that district, that boundary.
I'd be curious in knowing more if it's an additional assessment in the property tax valuation, or if it's tax incremental financing where they're essentially capturing the growth on the property value over time and then diverting that to the OTCA, the Old Town Commercial Association.
That's a very good question that I don't know the answer to.
Tax incremented financing gets used a lot for, say, Renaissance zones and promise zones for supporting scholarships to for students all around the state and where they want to have population growth, and so that's a pretty big deal. But either way, love taxes. Go for it. Tax, extend the boundary.
Yeah. Next, there was a public hearing on amending an ordinance for tenant relocation fees during emergency happenings. So the council did this a while ago, and they were like, okay, if there's some sort of an emergency at a property that's rented out, then the landlords have to pay to fix up that property until it is livable again. And they have to pay to house the tenants in the meanwhile. And so now they're saying, we're going to amend that change that we just made. If the landlords can prove that the tenants caused the problem that led to the relocation, then they don't have to pay the relocation fee. So there were 3 local developers speaking in support of this amendment. They're saying thank you, President Cost, to council members Hussein and Pelivanoglou for working on this, for not penalizing responsible landlords. And there were 8 more written comments in support. There was one comment from a representative from the Rent is Too Damn High saying, listen, the power dynamic is heavily skewed towards the landlords in Lansing. This amendment that you originally made was a small step towards giving more power to tenants, and in this change, you're undoing it. Landlords have all the power and money, and they will fight every single time to pin the problems on the tenants.
I'm just really fortunate because I mentioned I lived in Old Town for that 10-year stretch. It was just because I found a landlord who owned a building and had two buildings, 2 units, and wanted to make enough money for himself and for his retirement and for his own costs, but not be extractive. It was just, and it wound up really changing my whole financial life. It was just pure luck. And so I do think that other folks in Lansing really need that same ability to, while they're renting, have affordability, have a lot of the ability to actually save for a down payment like I did. Yeah. It
makes a huge difference who your landlord is in that situation.
We want to, I think council and the administration want to actually have a lot of stable owned housing. Part of doing that is actually managing the rental supply as well so that people can actually build up the resources for that down payment.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you make these sort of laws, how you regulate it effectively, I think is where they're struggling. So here's some more regulation that they're struggling with. So there's one property renovator in the Walnut neighborhood, Dale Schrader, and he has personally renovated many old homes in the area, and he's asking council to drop some red tag fees that have been accumulating on a home he is currently working on. President Cost says, look, we set a precedent in our last meeting when we rolled back a make safe or demolish order for a person in similar circumstances who was showing progress on an old home, a historic home, and had put a lot of money into it and progress was being made. I think the same sort of thing is happening here with this circumstance, and we shouldn't be undercutting positive work that's going on to renovate. Council members Spatafor, Brown, and Jackson are like, no, you can't make that comparison. That was a make safe or demolish order. That's different from rolling back red tag fees. Like, it's not apples to apples. And Councilmember Jackson goes on to say, we've had many other folks coming in here asking us to roll back these fees under similar circumstances, and we haven't granted them just because some old white guy is asking, like, now we're doing it. And Cost says, well, I've been working with the city attorney to revise this whole process for all of these cases, and we're getting close to bringing that before council. And they're all like, well, too bad. This is now and that is then. 5-3, they vote to keep the fees.
I'm wondering what the precedent case was. Was it an owner occupied home that they were working on, or was it another landlord rental? I think that matters.
Yes. So it was not owner occupied. It was a person who bought this house. I can't remember the exact timing of it now. It was kind of a while ago. They bought it at the land bank, treasury, Ingham County auction. And it is like a historic home, but it doesn't have that historic designation. But it is like a 100-year-old home built by a well-known Darius Moon Lansing architect. And this person is like, I've got this vision, I've got this dream for it, and slowly was making progress, ran into some health issues, the pandemic, but was still trying to move forward, running into issues with the building department, code compliance, but still definitely putting money into the project. It was just going really slowly, and councils through their whole process of looking at all of the buildings, they're this is not up to code, it needs to be demolished. And this person was like, no, please, don't make me do this. This is a historic home. I really care about this. I am working on it. And this person got 30 friends to come and speak on their behalf at 3 different council meetings. And that was enough for council to be like, okay, we believe you, fine. So I guess that was the first time that council has ever rolled back a make safe or demolish order.
And this is what happens when you start to say, well, a one-time exception never hurts. Now you start getting into a lot of this. And I would be very surprised if council doesn't see a lot of appeals coming out from owners of properties that are saying, well, if this is a possibility, I don't know. I'm also thinking of the old Susie Izzard routine from 1997 about what's considered historic in America versus Europe, and Europeans driving around another bloody castle, and in America's we've restored this shopping mall to how it looked over 50 years ago.
Yes. Well, certainly apples to apples and oranges to oranges there, castles to castles. And
thinking of Logan Square and all that, and all the South MLK corridor now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I feel like there isn't a very clear definition of what counts as historic. Do we need to be restoring things to the glory of the 80s, or I don't know.
I mean, as an 80s baby, I'm all about a lot of that. Everyone thinks that the 80s are all neon this and neon that. It's no, it was a lot of brown, yellow, and orange and cigarette smoke. No one remembers the real 80s. It was I was just mostly coughing as a kid.
Bring back the smoking indoors.
No, God.
Then there were 4 new make safe or demolish orders that went through, and one of them, there was somebody there to comment. They're working through the foreclosure process, give us more time, so they gave him 60 days instead of the 30 days. And there was one public comment on these, and the commenter said, landlords have been neglecting their properties for years. They lie, and they deserve to be punished. So he's saying we need to revamp this whole system, which it sounds like they're trying to do. There was an approved special land use permit for a Turner Street property to authorize a state-licensed adult foster home care. There was a property acquisition of a wetland near Jones Park, north of Old Town, for $1. And there was another property acquisition along South Waverly to extend the river trail. This is for 32 acres of woodland that cost $450,000, most of which will be paid for through a DNR grant, but there's a 26% match by the Parks Department, and that's for $117,000.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Anything for the river trail.
Yeah. They'll be issuing some revenue bonds for more work on decoupling the combined sewer overflow system into separate sewer and then rainwater systems. So they need money to do this to be in compliance with the state law. And then one other thing here, they're changing the retirement service credits for the chiefs, the fire chiefs and the police chiefs, to be from 25-year cap to a 30-year cap. And this is to encourage those chiefs to stay in their positions for longer. So that passes unanimously. And then they're trying to support some state Senate bills around immigration enforcement. So they're saying we support these bills, and Lansing Police already follows these guidelines that they're talking about.
I'm sure they'll be taken up very swiftly in the Michigan House of Representatives if the Senate passes them.
Mm-hmm. And my award for Best Dressed for the meeting goes to a public commenter who had huge white sunglasses on with a warm violet tinted lens. And this
amazing.
The sunglasses were really, really sticking out there at the meeting. And they also had a dinosaur skeleton print hoodie, which was very cool.
I need to know this person.
Yes. The runner-up was the city attorney. He had a colorful tie for his standards. So good job branching out a little bit.
Yeah.
That's the meeting. For all of you who are my Patreon patrons, thank you so much for supporting the show. You can find the results of the bingo from the meeting and an issue map of all the locations discussed. And there will be a podcast party December 18th at the Foster Community Center from 6 to 8 p.m. You can bring a Lansing theme gift to exchange. That will be a lot of fun, hopefully. And the next meeting will be next week, December 15th. Our guest will be the Krampus.
Love the Krampus. We go back a long time, just gathering children up together. I enjoyed it while I could. It was a great way to start my career. Eventually, I did have to branch off. Get it? Branches? Yeah.
Nice.
Branches, yeah. All right, I'm about to get yanked off this podcast.
I wonder how many Krampuses will unearth in that new woodland property that the river trail's going through.
Krampi.
Ooh, yeah, get those Krampi. The Lansing Krampies. Boy, that would be great to change from the lug nuts.
I sense it. I sense a new spin-off beer from Old Nation happening.
Oh my gosh, definitely. Anything that you would want to talk about, events coming up that you're a part of?
Well, the Salus Center doesn't have many more special events coming up this calendar year, but we do have a lot of resources available for the community here in Lansing, and it's a lot of support groups for folks depending on their identities and affiliations, but also a lot more activities. So the Queer Nature Club, there's always prom in May, which is our biggest event of the year. We've got fiber arts nights, we have game nights, we have tabletop RPG game nights, different from just regular board game nights.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of programming available for folks, and I will make our pitch, of course. We are not doing a formal end-of-year fundraising campaign. We know that this has been a very long and hard year for a lot of folks, especially in the queer community, given what's going on federally. But if you do have need, we do offer we have resource hours, so you can come in and actually talk to somebody, get help with doing document changes, name changes, passport applications, come and get free supplies from our care station, and that's personal hygiene items, some gender affirming items, some foods. So occasionally we'll have bus passes from CATA available for free. That's got quite a bit of a wait list for it now. But these are all free for the community because of donations.
Nice.
And our activities and programming are free for the community because of donations. Mm-hmm. And so if you do have some capability left in your year-end giving, the Salus Center would be incredibly appreciative to help us do what we do, because everything we do is free.
Thank you so much. And say where the Salus Center is located for folks.
That's a great point. We are actually on Washington Avenue, right downtown, right by the library and by the downtown bus station. And so we are we're very accessible to folks who maybe don't have a car, but right down there by my favorite Thai restaurant, actually, and Midtown Brewing.
Nice. Thank you so much. Thanks for all the work that you're doing at the Salus Center. That's amazing contribution you're making to our community. And thank you for being here, talking about the council meeting with me. And thank you to the Public Media Center for letting us record with you. And thanks, everyone, for listening.
Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome.